The next recommendation is that you hire infected people. I think that an infected founding team is probably more important than a founding team that on paper has a good background in work experience or education. That people who love the product or service, that's more important than their degrees. It's more important than their work experience. Focus on the people who love the product or service. This means fundamentally you ignore what's irrelevant. And in many cases, education and work experience is irrelevant. This is completely contrary to what most VCs will tell you. If you have VCs further on into this course, and if you ask them, well, what are you looking for? They're going to tell you, and I'll tell you that right now. You can skip that lecture. They're going to say, we want proven teams with proven technology and proven traction. In other words, we want people who have founded Cisco, won a Nobel Prize, and they're doing $50 million in revenue. That's an early stage deal for a VC today. All right? By contrast, Garage is in a different business. We want unproven teams, unproven traction, and unproven technology. It's a completely different world. The irrelevant thing is that, think about what an entrepreneur has to go through. So let's take what might seem very attractive to many venture capitalists. Let's say that on your founding team is someone who was a senior vice president at Microsoft. Most VCs would salivate at the thought. This is a proven executive. This executive has been with Microsoft for 10 years, has helped Microsoft grow, et cetera, et cetera. But if you peel the layers of the onion one level lower, you would see that that executive, during his or her career at Microsoft, had on average a war chest of $50 billion in Microsoft. During that time frame, they had a market share percentage of roughly 95%. During that person's tenure at Microsoft, that person's greatest fear was the antitrust division of the US Department of Justice. Now you're going to take that proven executive from Microsoft and stick them in a garage with $500,000, zero brand awareness, zero market share. I would make the case that that might not be the ideal hire for you. Okay? Now you may be wondering, why in the world are there diamond rings in this picture? It is because I am living proof of this theory. I graduated from Stanford in a psych degree, as I told you. I attended UC Davis Law School, and when you say you attended a school, it means you didn't finish. I attended 2 weeks, so I really, in fact, I never got started, actually. And after that, I went into the jewelry business. I enrolled the following year in an MBA program at UCLA, and while I was there, I started working in the jewelry business. My first job was literally counting diamonds. So on paper, if you were Apple Computer's recruiter, you said, all right, so we need someone to go out and to convince the most technical audience we have, software developers, why they should write Macintosh software. I don't think the spec would say psych degree, law school dropout, marketing MBA, currently counting diamonds in Los Angeles. That might not be the sweet spot, okay? But what enabled me to be successful with Macintosh is I loved Macintosh. The scales were removed from my eyes the first time I saw it. The clouds parted, the angels started playing their trumpets. It was a religious experience for me. That's why I succeeded, because it ain't because of my psych degree, and it's not because I attended law school for 2 weeks, and it's not because I have a marketing degree from UCLA. All right? Ignore the irrelevant. What is relevant is they love the product. Second point, you should hire better than yourself. Very difficult for most founders, particularly engineering types, who believe that because of their superior chip speed, that they should be the best salesperson, the best finance person, the best marketing person, and the best engineering person. You need to hire people better than you. A players, by definition, hire A players. B players hire C players. And C players hire D players. So pretty soon, you'll be surrounded by Z players. Okay? That's what's called the bozo explosion. And what follows the bozo explosion is the layoff. Okay? So avoid the bozo explosion. The third thing is to apply the Stanford Shopping Center test. The way this works is Suppose you're at Stanford Shopping Center. You see someone who's being recruited by your company, who's interviewing at your company. The distance between you and the person when you first see him or her is from me to the back of the room. That person up there has not yet seen me, but I have seen them, or him, or her. So at this point, I have this sort of choices. I can rush over them and say, hi, how are you? I know you're interviewing. Can I tell you more about the company? I really think you should join our company. We're just going to kick some ass. We're going to make meaning. We're going to change the world with our technology. Or you can say, Stanford Shopping Center isn't that big. Maybe I'll bump into them. If I do, I'll say hello. If I don't, I won't say hello. The third reaction is I'm going to get in my car and go to Valco Shopping Center. Okay? If your reaction to the job candidate is not, I'm going to run over there and say hello to the person, don't hire the person. Because when you're creating a startup, it is a family. It is a dysfunctional family, honestly, but it is a family. If you don't feel the compulsion to run over there and say hello, it's probably not the right person. The ninth thing is to lower barriers to adoption. Here are the cases where you've created the world's greatest mousetrap, the nuclear-powered mousetrap. You kill mice better than anybody in the history of mankind. Mouse goes in there, there's a little explosion, little mushroom cloud, the mouse is gone. Okay? You murder mice really well. You got the design from Lawrence Livermore, or you stole it from Los Alamos. I don't know how you got it. Somehow, you really murder mice well. So here's the barriers to adoption. First of all, your mousetrap is nuclear powered. However, you need a PhD in applied physics to set the mousetrap. The learning curve is so high. It's almost as difficult as setting the clock on a VCR. It's that high, right? The fundamental model, the metaphor that you should aspire to is you open the box, you plug in the cords, you go. That's what it should be like. You should not need a PhD in physics to set your mousetrap. Flatten the learning curve. By contrast, if any of you buy a BMW, there's something in the BMW called an iDrive, which is their interface for their electronics. If you take a 2-hour course, you will then be able to change the radio station. That is the antithesis of the flattening the learning curve. Second point is, never ask people to do something that you yourself would not do. You wouldn't go back to school to get a PhD in physics to set a mousetrap. You wouldn't drive 300 miles to drop off a dead radioactive mouse. You wouldn't pay $250,000 for a mousetrap. Don't expect customers to do this either. The reason why there's a washing machine in this picture is because I have a positive example, which is the Kauai Hyatt Regency. The Kauai Hyatt Regency, in every wing of the hotel, there's a laundry room. That means there's one less guest room. It means that people send out less laundry through the laundry system than if you went into the laundry room, you would see that the washers and dryers are free. So at a Hyatt Regency in Kauai, they're not charging you to wash the clothes. That is a good example, a positive example of this theory. The third point is you need to recruit evangelists. At the start of a company, you need to recruit evangelists. They're not stockholders, they're not employees. They see your product or service as a way to make the world a better place. There's no more higher leverage than recruiting evangelists. Evangelists view your product or service as bringing the good news. That's the Greek base word for evangelism. Bringing the good news. It means that you had to have thought differently, that you jumped curves, that you're not just better, faster, cheaper. You're fundamentally different. That's what evangelists do. They evangelize and proselytize things that are fundamentally different and better. Having seen the example of TiVo recruit evangelists, and Harley Davidson have evangelists, and Apple have evangelists, and Netflix have evangelists. At this point in e-commerce and commerce, you would think that people understand when you have a great product or service, you will get evangelists. I don't think that people have quite understood that. When you have this great product or service, I'm telling you, go get your evangelists. Don't wait for them to bubble up. Don't wait years for these groups to form. Go get them. Go get them. You'll increase the leverage of your marketing sales tremendously by doing that. The 10th thing is to seed the clouds. This is about rainmaking, about sales. These are the things I learned about sales. First thing is, let 100 flowers blossom. This I stole from Chairman Mao, although it's not clear to me he implemented letting 100 flowers blossom. 100 flowers blossoms means that at the start of a company, you'll often see your people who are not your intended customers using your product or service, and they're going to be using it in ways you didn't anticipate. Many entrepreneurs go crazy. My God, the wrong people are buying our products in large quantities. What are we doing wrong? Let's get marketing and sales in here. We need to reposition the product because we know who should buy our product. Well, that's categorically stupid. Fundamentally, when you see this happening, first of all, take the money. Take the money. There's two theories in engineering for revising a product. One is you go to the people who aren't buying your product and you ask them, why aren't you buying our Macintosh, Mr. Fortune 500 CIO? And the CIO will say, you don't have a letter quality printer driver. You don't have Lotus 1, 2, 3. You come back to the lab. You convince Lotus to do it. You get a letter quality printer driver. You go back to the Fortune 500 CIO. You say, all right, we listened. Now there's a printer driver. Now there's 1, 2, 3. They still won't buy it. They still won't buy it. The other theory in engineering is you go to the people who are buying your product, Mr. Desktop Publishing or Ms. Desktop Publishing. Why are you buying our product? Because it's WYSIWYG, because it's high-resolution printing. So you come back to the labs and you say, wow, people are buying our product to use it for desktop publishing, not spreadsheet, database, and word processing like we intended. And what do they need for desktop publishing system? They need bigger monitors. They need higher resolution printers. They need higher resolution monitors. They need all these things to make desktop publishing better. That's my theory. Fix for who's buying. Ignore the people who are atheists. Atheists are too hard to convert to your religion. Go for agnostics and go for believers. Forget the atheists. Second point is, you need to enable people to test drive your product. That you're saying to them, I think you're smart, and because I think you're smart, I'm not going to bludgeon you into becoming my customer. Take home my product, take home my service, try my software, try my website, then you decide. The third point is to suck down. One of the fundamental shortcomings of sales training is that you think, or many people think, that selling a new product is about sucking up. You need to suck up to CXO level people, suck up to a CIO, suck up to a CTO, suck up to a CEO, a CMO, sucking up to CXO level people. It has been my experience that particularly from a tech startup, the people who truly make the decision to try a product or service are not the people with CXO, vice president, or director level titles. They are the people who are administrative aides and database administrators and tech support people. They're the interns, they're the summer hires. They're people without titles. They're the people who really do the work, however. And so if you want to be successful in sales, you have to understand something, that in most organizations, the higher you go, the thinner the oxygen, and therefore the more difficult it is to find intelligent life, right? So if you dedicate yourself in a sales effort to sucking up, you'll be sucking up to the dumbest people in the organization. You need to learn to suck down, and you need to learn to suck across, because that's where the decisions are made for a high-tech startup. Suck down, suck across, don't just suck up.